Hello, y'all. Good evening. This is Michelle Zachary with Relock Podcast. We're here today talking with moms about mental health. Today, I have my two co hosts here, Erica Sloan and Erin Brown.
ATX.
And we have two special guests, Nina Bone and Anissa Stovall. Today, we will be talking about moms and mental health. They will be sharing their stories with us about mental health. So, you guys will get right into it. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you guys here and be able to share your story.
I'm doing well. Thank you for the invite.
Okay. So again, like I said, thank you guys for coming. All the viewers that will tune in, you guys can go subscribe to Relock Podcast on YouTube. And we will be on Facebook Live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So today we'll be talking about moms and mental health. Um, so I wanted to start off asking you guys how did how do you and did you deal with mental health, um, and how did you know that you were having mental health problems?
That's hard, I guess, for me because I know now looking back, like I had a lot of problems as a kid. Like I can remember not being able to use crayons past a certain point, like because they weren't sharp enough. And while that might sound like it was like minuscule, that was something that was important to me. Like Barbie clothes that were too wrinkled were not like that would be a meltdown for me. Like there were certain things now that I see that were manifesting itself in anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety in my life. I mean, granted, I did have some abuse, so there, it could have been because of that too. But I think when I started getting about 18, I think I started talking to friends and kind of realizing like, oh, I don't think people feel the same way that I feel. Like, I don't think that this is normal. I think I'm really sad, you know? Never got to the point where I was suicidal, but I knew that those days where I didn't want to function, I knew that other people weren't having those days like I was having them. And so I kind of talked to a doctor and found out that, oh yeah, I think I needed meds, and immediately my life changed.
Okay. Okay. Anissa, what about yourself?
I can say, really growing up, I never really had any issues with mental health myself. Um, Nothing that would just make me think that something was wrong. I think it was over the course of my life of constantly just pushing that trauma down each time and just picking up the pieces and keep going. I think over time that did cause some issues because I didn't deal with that trauma at that time. So when I lost my son in 2021, I feel like it just exploded. It all came for me to deal with. It was something, that really, really put me in a bad place when I lost my son.
Uh-huh.
And it caused me to have depression. It caused me to have suicidal thoughts, a lot of anxiety. Um, I couldn't sleep. Um, I didn't really want to do much. So I knew something was wrong. And when I first lost him that first week, I um, I had someone get me some drugs off the street. Um, it was, it was something that I never done before, but I needed something. And whatever those drugs were, I took them for about 2 weeks. And I mean, they were really, really good. They like actually just numbed me completely. And I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, you got to do something different. This ain't right. You know, although I was taking those street drugs and I was numb, I was sitting in the garage trying to figure out how could I commit suicide but make it look like an accident because I wanted to make sure that my kids were well taken care of. So I needed it to be an accident. So I would sit in the garage every night and I would try to plan how I was going to make this happen. And so that went on for about, 2 or 3 weeks. And then I decided, okay, you got to do something.
Mm.
This ain't working. Because not only am I taking these street drugs, I don't know what I'm getting. I'm just sending someone to go get them for me. And he doesn't know what he's getting, but he's bringing them to me. And the way everything is happening, with these pills, I guess it's fentanyl,
Fentanyl.
people are not, yeah. Like
Mhm.
I knew that I had to get some help. And so I did. I did. I called my doctor and they got me on medication right away to help me sleep. Um, and then they also put me on medication to help me for anxiety because I had trouble functioning through the day. Um, so I've been on those medications for the last 2 years. I see my therapist and I just continue to work on myself, but every day is a struggle. Some days are harder than others, no doubt.
Mm.
Um, but I just continue to work through it. And it's hard. It gets exhausting. I mean, it really does. It
I could
it gets
imagine.
very exhausting.
Yeah. So Nina, dealing with your mental health issue, how does that affect you being a mom? Like, does it disrupt your day to day mommy things that
Yeah, I
you
mean,
have to do for the kids?
especially when they were smaller and you're in the trenches and you have, at mine are 4 years apart. I can remember them being like 2 and 6 and being like, you got to be kidding me. Like this, you can't, uh, this can't be it, because you don't know whether to love them to death or murder them. And I guess also at that time, I wasn't the most responsible about taking care of myself.
Mhm.
So I guess the real way to put it is I just wasn't doing what I should have been doing. I would not take my medicine. I'd let it run out. Then it'd take me 3 days to get to Walgreens. And I mean, doesn't that happen as a mom? You put yourself completely last. I'll be
Mhm.
okay. I got these kids. But you still, I never could just fall apart. You have to keep going. They don't care. It's not their problem was always my thing. Like, I never wanted them to be like, oh, she was in the bed and she was, she wouldn't get up. Or I never wanted them to have those type of memories of me. So I just always pushed myself like to the furthest point that I could, and not always to my health benefit.
Okay. Anissa, how about yourself? How does it affect you being a mom?
Um, I can say the first year, I pretty much checked out, and I have 11-year-old,
Hmm.
but I did. I checked out, no doubt. I was here, but I wasn't.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I think he felt that. And so he kind of stayed in his room and stayed away, as much as he could so that he wouldn't, hurt mommy's feelings or anything because mom was sad.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I began to recognize that later on in that year. Um, and so I started trying to correct that, starting to be more active with him because, I mean, I was an active mother and I was, involved in what he was doing at school and his activities and things like that. But I did. I checked out. And even for my adult children, I think I feel like I kind of checked out from them as well.
Hmm.
And I think I hurt them in the process when they knew that I wanted to commit suicide.
Hmm.
They
I
let me
was
know
wondering
that
if they understand? The older kids, do they understand where you are? Do they understand your depression, or are they expecting you to come out of it, or are they supportive?
they're supportive, but I think when they heard the fact that I didn't want to be here anymore, that hurt them.
Mhm.
It hurt them a
You
lot.
felt like it was a selfish thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to explain to them that I wasn't trying to hurt them. It's
Right.
just their pain was overtaking.
Yeah.
And it was not that I loved anyone more than the other, because I
Right.
loved them all. And, after getting help and getting the medication and going through therapy,
Mhm.
I realized that I didn't want to cause them that type of pain after they had already experienced the pain that they did from losing their brother.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that that was not something I wanted to do, but like I explained to them, I wasn't well. I wasn't well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you hadn't reached out for help, if you would have gotten that same clarity.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm a believer. I am. I trust God in spite of it all. Even though I don't know why this happened, why such a young man with so much potential had to fight schizophrenia, bipolar. I don't know why that day that I tried to get him help, I had tried that entire week. That very day, I called mental health officers trying to get help. And when everything started happening that day, Jordan called 911 that day. He called 911 that evening. When he ran into someone's house, he's the one that made the 911 call. But then when they got there, they said that he was holding someone hostage. And, I'm on the phone trying to talk to the officers. And his dad was on the scene and they just would not hear us. And so it's hard to understand. Like I said, I trust God through it all. But 2.5 years later, I'm still fighting to find my way through it.
Do you feel like in the beginning you were blaming yourself still, maybe a little bit, or
You
was
always have those thoughts, and I say you always have those thoughts because um, I also have an Angels Moms Club under my mental health organization called Jordan Safe Place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I connect with a lot of mothers that have lost children. And no matter how your child died, you're gonna always have those thoughts of what if you would have did this? What if you would have did that? And then you'll be like, well, I did all I could have done. There's always those thoughts. And then there's it, well, I can't stop God, plan. I can't do that. And then you go back to, well, maybe I should have did this. So it's always there. Even now I still get it sometimes like, maybe I should have did this or did that.
Yeah. I mean, I can, uh, I mean, I've talked to you. We've talked about this. I've come over and, I read, I bought you a book and, we kind of talked about it and I was very sad for what happened to Jordan. You know, I knew that me and you had talked in the past because we was trying to get my brother to mentor him, trying to get Byron to mentor him and things like that. But I will say that mental health, it it shows up, I think, in a lot of us, and we just don't recognize the signs. And I think what I've learned in counseling is as mothers, we are in survival mode and we don't even know. It's like on autopilot. And every day we wake up and we have these adult children or these young children, our mind, even though they don't live with us, our mind is still in the mother's mode. And it's like we never get out of it. And what I learned in counseling, because I go to a counselor and I go to I actually go to two counselors and to a psychotherapist. And in my journey of me having mental health issues, I have learned that I have to learn to get myself out of this survival mode. And this survival mode has been my biggest depression problem. And I'm very good at hiding it as well. I get up every day, I take care of business, but at one point I did realize that I felt very unhappy, and I didn't know why. I had a good life. I got married. I have a nice husband. My kids are grown, my grandkids are doing well, and I just didn't feel like myself. And I think that was one of my signs. I started staying in the house a lot. I would go places, but I really didn't want to be there. And it was really not who I was as a person. I'm loud, I'm outgoing, I love to dance, I love to hang out. And I would go places and I would be ready to leave early. Like me and Erica, we would go eat, have a drink, and I'll be ready to go. Like I never stay long anywhere. And that's how I knew that I was getting into that depression mode. And I didn't know what depression looked like because in our culture, there's really no such thing as depression. Or you need to go to counseling. It's you pray to God and you get over it and you keep pushing. And we have survived like that, but it also has really mentally drained us. And now that we're getting in our older age, it is really, I know it started affecting me. I started having problems with my kids. And it just kind of like hit me one day. And I was just like sitting in this house, the windows was closed. And I was like, Shell, something is wrong with you. You're on the phone and you're giggling and having a good time and you're helping everybody else solve their problems. But all your problems is up to here. And I couldn't take it. I was tired of talking about issues and stuff with people. And I was feeling like I was just drowning in my own self pity, but alone. You know what I mean? So I felt a little of the depression and the anxiety. I didn't even know that I had anxiety. I have been itching my whole life, and I didn't know it was a sign of anxiety. I would literally scratch my skin till it wept up. And when I went to the doctor, I started talking to her about it. She was like, you have bad anxiety, Michelle. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah, you have anxiety. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I really sat back and I started going to counseling and I started unraveling myself, because that's what happens in counseling. You start peeling off all these layers that you have hid from the world and things that you think that you're okay with it. And you know these things in your head, but you put them to the side. So I definitely can mirror with that, feeling alone and feeling like, I don't even feel like being here. I'm just tired of dealing with everything. I'm tired of being accused. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. And you get in that space. I've been in that headspace like, I just probably will be better off not being here. And then I won't have to worry about nobody and nobody have to worry about me. So I really, really do understand, the mental illness and how it works. We all have different forms of it as we have discussed tonight. But I do understand. And Nina, I understand exactly where you're coming from as well. You got these kids, you put on your cape, you turn into Superwoman and you go through the muddy waters.
Yeah,
And
I thought something you just said too was like, you give so much of yourself sometimes. And I think as people are depressed and don't even realize it, there are a lot of people out there who give so much of themselves just so they don't have to deal with themselves. You may be like putting out all this energy that is good because you feel so bad about yourself that you need to put out all this good. And I know for me, that's how I am. Like, I have to put out all this good because I have so much angst inside of myself that I haven't dealt with. I feel like I have to be good. I have to do this. I have to be high performing. I have to be a good mom to these kids. And I put so much pressure on myself. And then like at some point you have to realize like nobody is holding you to this standard but you.
Yeah.
So you don't even show yourself the grace that you show the entire world. And as I think with anxiety, with depression, any type of mental illness, you fail to show yourself any type of grace.
Yeah.
The same grace you'd show your friend, you do not give yourself. You are, you have these horrible self-talk, this horrible self-doubt. And it's just funny when you said about giving yourself and, not being able to help anymore. I felt that like, I think you were given so much so you didn't have to deal with what you were going through.
Yeah.
But, and that's funny how you should recognize those things in our friends too, that You know, sometimes when they're going through these things, they don't manifest themselves as being sad or just not calling. It manifests itself in different ways. There's different behaviors that you can do to yourself that are just as damaging as what anybody on the outside can do to you.
That's true.
So I would like to ask the ladies. So I think it's important for the audience to know if you could tell them and tell us how important is counseling for you, and how did you go about seeking the help to get you to the point where you are now? I mean, I know it's still some work in progress, and you ladies are still working through some things. But share with the audience, each one of y'all, um, what you did to get the help that you're getting now, and how important it is. Because I know some, I'm not going to make a blanket statement to say all Black folks, but some Black folks may feel that counseling is not going to help, and they stray away from getting it. I personally um, am getting counseling now to deal with some of the issues that I'm dealing with, and it does help, having someone else to talk to. But if you ladies could express that and share that with the audience.
This is actually an emotional topic for me because this is again another way I don't show myself grace. I go to counseling periodically. It helps. It's awesome. And then sometimes I start dealing with something that's super tough and I can't do it. And I back off and I kind of disguise it in a way like, oh, I'm too busy, or, work came up, or I really need to be working out more, or something like that. So I'm currently out of counseling. I do know that it helps. I completely know that. But again, this is a way that I don't show myself the grace that I need to all the time. And I think, again, I'm a mom. I have orthodontist appointments, and I still have a 15-year-old at home, and so I blame it on busy, even though I can do it. I can make time for myself. I just don't. And I think again, because I put myself so busy so that I don't have the time to deal with me.
Anissa, what about you?
My counseling, we started family counseling with Jordan when he was first diagnosed. So we had already been in counseling through the whole process. For like I said, when he was first diagnosed, so we had been in counseling. And when we lost him, we were in family counseling. Um, but then I knew that I needed my own counselor, that I needed to be somewhere and talk privately. And so I met a African American lady that is faith based, and took me a couple of counselors. Now you just can't get whoever they give you
Yeah,
or nothing like that.
that's true.
So that's one thing. You want to make sure that that counselor fits for you, because that's another issue as well. If that doesn't fit for you, it's not going to work. So you want to make sure the counselor that you pick, it works. And it's okay for you to change counselors. If you do a couple of weeks and decide like, no, that's not working, that's fine, because you want the perfect fit. And so I met her out of Houston, and I mean, this lady has really become like family to me. I love talking to her. I share things with her whenever I do something for Jordan's anniversary or his birthday. I share with her. If I do something under Jordan's safe place, I share with her. Um, we pray together. And so not only have I had her, I've also had my pastor. Now, my pastor has been my counselor and my pastor for like the last 25 years. So he was very, I guess, very supportive through the whole process, but he also, he pushed me to make sure that I got my own counselor, and he kind of pushed me to make sure that I stayed in counseling. Um, so as it grew, sometimes, I really didn't want to do the counseling session. Sometimes I was just in those moods, but I did it. And like I said, over this last couple of years, I mean, I really enjoy talking to her, and she makes me think about how to cope with this loss. She makes me do different things that will help me. And so I like, the fact that she points out things that I don't even think about, you
Mhm.
know. So it's helped me. She's helped me to start journaling. I never thought journaling was a thing. I mean, I heard about it, but for me, that was not for me.
Yeah.
So I have a journal that I write to Jordan, and I started that, you know, probably a
How does
couple
how does journaling work? Can you? Because I never heard of that.
of
Can you?
journaling.
Yes, ma'am. How does that help you? How do
Um,
you do it?
how do you do it? Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
just kind of like you normally if you're writing in a diary, or just get your notepad and just jot down how you're feeling that day. If
Yeah.
something made you feel a way, whether it was good or bad, kind of writing it down. Kind of writing things for me. I write things down that I want to say to Jordan. Is what I do with mine, and I also, make promises to Jordan about what I'm going to do about me taking care of myself. Because not only have I struggled with mental health, since Jordan passed away, I've gained like 80 pounds. And so now I'm trying to get healthy because I feel the weight on me, and I've been sick with high blood pressure.
Mhm.
But then there's some days that I turn to just eating cookies and cakes because I'm just emotionally,
Yeah.
um, just going through it emotionally. So
Mhm.
I write those things to Jordan, and it helps me. And it helps me to get up the next day and be like, okay, baby, I promised you that I was going to walk today. So I'm going to go walk because I promised you that last night. And so I feel like the journaling is kind of me just keeping this promise to Jordan and making sure I don't break those promises that I make to him.
Holding yourself accountable for it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I feel a lot of people do that. That's great.
So, with both of you ladies, so what are some things that so Anissa, I know you talked about this journaling, and that's something that I do too in counseling. That was one of the things that one of my assignments was to journal and talk about my day and how I felt that day and the things that made me mad and the things that triggered me and how I handled those things. And it has helped me. So Nina, what have you is there anything that you can share with us that you have done during your when you did go to counseling, or if you didn't, how did you get yourself on the path to trying to get healthy mental wise in this journey that you were going through when you were having your mental health issues,
In my
illness?
case, the first step was meds because I was pretty deep down, and so once that's almost like dating. Meds is like getting everything right and too much, and I really didn't need a high dosage of anything. So like I didn't want to feel too medicine-y or things like that. So I think that was like the first step to getting me well. And then after I started counseling, the next thing would to I kind of learned to, and it sounds ridiculous, but to talk better to myself. I realized that I talk horrible to myself, and I would never talk to any person on the planet the way I would talk to myself.
Mhm.
And so it's just and then realizing why you do that,
Mhm.
and uncovering all that stuff. Ugh, that's uncomfortable and icky, but you kind of have to get to a place of where you're able to function and able to be the person that you were meant to be. So
True.
I think, yeah, so for me personally it was meds, but I know everybody's journey is different. Some people
Different.
I know can do this with meditation, yoga. I have people who do meditation every day and that helps them, or take all natural things. I think, but again, like I said, that's like dating. I think you got to find what works for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think with my counseling journey, I journaling was one of the things. Um, this podcast was one of the things. I had always talked about doing it, joked around. Me and Eric, we'd be like, "Oh, we should do it," and my counselor gave me 300 things to do, and the 300 things was through a period of time, and I could choose one a week, two a week to do, and I started picking something each week to do. And I did what they call hydrotherapy. I went, sit in this big, you lay in this big tub of water and it floats you on top because it has
We
this.
put the salt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
salt
Yeah,
bath.
that
I've
one
heard of
time.
people doing that.
And it was interesting because I had learned about it in massage school. And so I went, I got a Groupon and I went one day and I was like, that was relaxing. And then I would get out the house a little more one day. And then I would just do things step by step. But I actually have two counselors. I have a Caucasian lady and I have a African American counselor. And both of them give me two different things because I was struggling with my issues and my kids' issues. Um, and that started bringing up a lot of past things for
Mhm.
me. So one was enough for me. I would have took up too much of her time, child, because I had too many issues going on. Um, but I think that I just picked something off of that list each week to do that kind of helped me get out of my funk a little bit. Medicine, I'm really not a real medicine type of person. They did want to put me on medicine, but I was kind of like, let me try some other things first, and then if that doesn't work, we'll move forward to something else. But I'm not really fond on medicine. Medicine ain't my thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but I did take medicine for the anxiety because it stopped me from itching so bad because it made me sleepy. And so that was one of the things that I did. Journaling was my best outlet because it allowed me to write down all these thoughts that was in my head all night and I couldn't sleep. It allowed me to get those thoughts out of my brain and onto some paper and I could get some rest.
Does
So
it help for you
journaling,
to go back and read those at all?
I haven't because I'm still in my therapy sessions. So maybe later on down the line I will.
Yeah.
Anissa, do you go back and read?
I do. I
You do?
do. And I also want to add another thing that my counselor had me do was she had me to be intentional about my day.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
example,
Hmm.
3 to 5, you're gonna cry. And that's
Hmm.
what you're gonna do. 3 to 5,
Mhm.
you're gonna cry. And 6 to 7, you're gonna deal with everything with the lawyer and APD. And that's kind of how she broke it down. She was like, you're gonna pick the times and the days that you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And so that was quite, I was like, schedule a time to cry. What do you mean? Like, what? You know, but I mean, it made sense. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I scheduled that time, got it all out, do what I need to do, and
Right.
pick
You
myself
can
back up
move on
again.
with your day. Yeah, you're able to kind of get through your day.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
also forcing you to deal with stuff you need to deal with in a
Right.
certain
Yeah.
specific
Yes.
amount of
Mhm.
time. You need to focus on this, and it gives you something to do, like something to focus on.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
moving
Because
forward.
if what was happening was everything was coming together in the whole day. The grief, um,
Hmm.
Mhm.
I was having to work. I'm depressed, having to deal with the lawyer going back and forth with questions, and then it was just too much for one day. So then when it was time for me to go to bed, and even though I took the medication, I was still having trouble because all day
Hmm.
long my mind is trying to handle all these emotions and handle taking care of business for Jordan because I need to do what I need to do for
Mhm.
him and handle his case. And I still needed to take care of my home, so I still needed to provide. And yet, like I said, I was dealing with this all day long. And she was like,
Yes.
"Oh," she was like, "You got to be intentional and you got to map it out." She was like,
That is true. That being intentional is it's one of the things that she has taught me
Mhm.
too, is to like pretty much organize my day.
Right.
At
mm-hmm,
this time I do this, at this time I do that. Like at 10, my phone goes bright. And sometimes I still be on it. But if I'm not really talking about too much or nothing, and she was like, you need to get off the phone. If you have said what you called to say to somebody and that conversation goes flat, and y'all not really talking too much, you need to get off that phone.
Yeah.
Because now you're just concocting up things to be talking about, and that's other stuff on your mind. When that conversation gets dead, boom, that phone needs to go down. And because that's one of the things that I would do when I would have so many issues going on that was causing me depression and anxiety. I would help other people with their issues, and that would help me feel better about my issues
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like, okay, I'm trying to help myself, but then I'm gonna go help somebody else too. But what I learned is that helping other people was overflowing my cup, and I didn't have a saucer to hold it. It was just going everywhere. So I needed to contain myself back to handle my business, my kids, and my family,
Mm-hmm.
and not get so overwhelmed with other people's issues and problems that was bringing on me more stress and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So she did teach me. She didn't call it being intentional, but she told me I needed to organize my day.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I do that? So I have things that I do. I get up in the morning, I sit in my bed for 20 minutes, and I'm quiet. I have no TV on. I have not looked at my phone. Uh, and then I move forward. So if I know I get up early, I'll get up extra early to do that. And then I'll go through my day. And then some of the talking on the phone to me is therapy. I like to talk. And so this is why she pushed the podcast too, because she was like, okay, well, you can do that, but you can also get some of your stuff out and then help other people too, because that's what you like to do. So it was kind of a therapy for me as well. Yeah.
Those are all
So
great things to do. Definitely.
yes. So what advice, Anissa, would you give other mothers that may be dealing with uh, mental illness or feeling like they're not themselves anymore or feeling like life is just being overwhelming uh, at this point? You know, we've come through the pandemic. We watch on Facebook every day. One of our friends' kids are dying. Somebody has passed away. We're helping with funerals. You know, we just see all these things because we have this social media, things that we have never seen in our lives because you had to go somewhere to see something else that was outside of your city. And now we have this social media to where we're seeing people, kids come up missing. We got people, kids that we know being pulled out of the Lady Bird Lake. We got, you know, friends, they're burying their kids. You know, today we have more people burying their children than their children burying the parents. So, with all this going on and dealing with your own mental, what would you advise other parents how to deal with these issues, or what advice would you give them?
I think my advice, what I would say is, if you know that you don't feel okay, that something seems off, to make sure that you get the help you need. Reach out to whether it's a pastor, counselor, your doctor, whatever, but reach out to someone. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, they have a hotline that you can call, and they even have a text line as well where you can text and get help. But they have
Mhm.
resources that they provide. So that will be my guidance to anyone that is struggling with mental health, to reach out and get the help that you need. Even if you think that you can't afford it or whatnot, there is programs out there to help you get the help that you need. There's ATX Mental Health Fund. They will
Mhm.
also help you pay for any doctor's visits that you might need to, if you need to make a visit to a psychiatrist or a counselor. They can help you fund that as well. Jordan Safe Place will also help you obtain resources for if you're dealing with a crisis in mental health.
Mhm.
And I mean, last but not least, take a step back from everything. Take a step back from social media. Take a step back from the news. When I first lost my son, gosh, I used to watch the news all the time. But after I lost him, it took me a long time. I mean, I really still don't watch it now. Um, And I guess the reason I don't is because I saw the story that they put out there on my son and everything they said, and they left so much out of the story. They left a lot out of the story, and that really put my, I guess, my trust in the news. I don't really trust it anymore because the way they put his story out, um, they left a lot of it out. They left a lot out of the story. And then the fact they didn't release his name for 2 weeks. They only released his name because our attorney in 400 plus one continued to call them. And so they finally released his name. But they didn't release his name at first. And my thing was, I guess, because he didn't have a criminal record. Because, that's the first thing they do. They want to release the name and mug shots and all that. But he didn't have any of that. So,
they couldn't spend that.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, yes, I would stay away from news. Take a break from social media. Because, I see it every day myself. And I'm like, oh, my God. This person missing. This person lost a child. And who would do that to someone's child? And not just someone's child, to anybody. Like, how do you do that and just leave this person there, helpless? So you see so much going on. Then I see little kids, their parents, maybe murdering them or whatever. And I'm like, I give anything to have my baby. And this person here took their own baby's life, So you look at all that, and it does kind of bring you down. It kind of, will send you to depressing.
It can be depressing, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all need a break from social media at times. So that's why a lot of times I try not to get on Facebook a lot. Like every now and then I jump on and scroll through, but I try to stay off of social media, and I don't watch the news as much either.
Yeah.
It just could be depressing and sad.
It really does.
It is. It is. So, Nina, what advice would you give any mothers that are struggling with mental illness?
I guess I'm gonna reiterate what Anissa said. This exists. No matter how much people say oh, something's wrong, she's just sad or whatever, this exists. So, recognizing yourself, if you're doing something that maybe you wouldn't normally do, you're doing self-destructive things or, stuff that are out of your character. You may even be talking to people crazy. Those are things that could be manifesting it. Those are depression things that could be manifesting itself in different ways. Like, recognize that in yourself. If you don't know who to go to and you're scared your insurance doesn't accept, psychiatric care or whatever, just go to your primary care. Yep. Go to your pastor. You don't have to take the path I'm taking. You don't have to take the path Michelle's taking. You just have to take your path. But get some help and just figure it out. Like Michelle said, meds isn't for everybody, but it is for some. It may be for you. Just start the dialogue, open up. It exists. No matter what, we can't deny it. It exists.
So I just want to ask the ladies real quick. So, like you were saying, Anissa and Nina, take a step back from social media and other platforms of the news and such things like that. With so much negative stuff going on out in the world. But what do you ladies do to relax and to let your hair down? And how do you, I don't know if this is a correct term I really want to use, but how do you self-soothe? What do you do for yourself to take your mind off of some of those things that you go through on a daily basis? Do you do something special for yourself? Do you go take a trip, take a walk, or do you do anything for yourself to relax and to?
Well, me personally, I've been working out pretty hard lately, and I realized that that really helps me tremendously. I do cycling, I do weights, I cycle outside. I recently did 17 miles on a bike outside, which is something I never would have done 2 years ago. But that time by myself, I realized I like to be alone sometimes. That's okay. And I always thought you had to be surrounded by people to be loved. And sometimes you just have to be by yourself and love yourself. And like those are the best times. I realize now that the best times are when I'm playing my little nerdy games on the computer, which I'm a big old nerd, so I play The Sims. Shout out to anybody out there who plays The Sims. I'm a big old nerd. I may be having a vape in my hand when I do that, but love to do that by myself with some R&B 90s playing. My favorite thing of all, and or like taking a bath. I just like to be by myself sometimes
Yeah. Take it.
with my playlist. With my playlist.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it would be about every 60 days, I'm taking a trip to the ocean somewhere.
Mm.
That's great.
Um,
Yeah.
You sure do. You goes to the ocean.
That's
So
it's,
nobody else go see the ocean, baby. Anissa goes to the ocean. Okay,
Every 60 days, huh?
she
about
sure
every 60
does.
days. Yeah.
She do.
I'll be leaving in 30 days.
See, and there's that intention. There's that intention.
Yeah.
There's
What
that
does the
intent.
ocean do for you? What happens to you when you're walking on the beach and you hear the waves? What are you, are you walking and praying? Are you
I just
what are you doing?
walk. I talk to God. I talk to Jordan. I just
Mm-hmm.
look at the water, and I don't know. It just brings me so much
Much
peace.
peace.
You
It's
know, um, I don't know. One thing about it, I used to take Jordan to the beach every year, like his whole entire life. Every year, my kids went to the beach, and so I don't know if it's something about that. You know, I don't know, but it's something about that water that just it brings me so much peace, and I have to get there, and I'm ready. Although I just got back in March, I'm ready for next month.
oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to say something. I don't know if I missed it or not, Michelle, but did Anissa, did you get to really tell your story since you've been on here? I know we just kind of jumped right in to
Mhm.
it, but did, did you did you get a chance to express exactly what happened? Do you
Um,
feel up to doing that? If not, it's up to you. But I'm not sure if the audience is aware
mhm.
Of
of,
his
Yeah,
situation.
I,
of
Right.
I
this.
did I did share some of it. But my story, my son Jordan, in 2019, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, bipolar, and in 2021, he was killed by APD while he was going through a mental health crisis. Um, it's been a struggle ever since I lost him. Um, and that's where I found my battle with depression and anxiety and suicidal. Um, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
beach every 60 days. I'm gonna have to take that on 'cause I love the water. I love the beach.
Me
And
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I do. It brings me so much peace, and like I said before, some days I'm good, some days I'm not. I still struggle because, I kind of told you guys earlier that I go to bed with Jordan on my mind, and I wake up with him on my mind. No matter what, it's been like that
Yeah.
for the last 2.5 years. You
And
know,
you probably always will, though. You
Yes,
always will.
definitely.
I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, something you said in that, I wonder why we have like police force that aren't willing to. I kind of remember when this happened with your son. I remember reading about it. And I remember reading an article talking about how they needed to train officers or have people on staff that were trained to deal with people who were having mental health crisis at a time that they were interacting with the police. So, for example, if you come across somebody that you think has erratic behavior or something seems not right, you should be able to, as a police officer, call the specialist in your area to come help deal with this person so that they are not shot. Because how many times are someone shot or physically injured because their brain is telling them to do something that they have no control over?
That's a
And
great
I
point.
think that like that would be such a resource to have instead of worrying
Well,
about pulling over people whose car ain't inspected. I think
Yeah.
that
yeah.
trying to worry about how we can keep people alive would be, to me, better.
Well, apparently they do have some mental health officers, but not enough. It's my
Yeah.
understanding. That very day, I called the mental health officer 3 times, three times that day, and I gave them the description of Jordan. I gave them what car he was in, what he had on, and I kept trying to get help that day.
Mm.
And before Jordan called 911, he called me. He called me, and the phone cut out. He was just like, Mama, I need help. Mama, I need help. And the phone cut out. So then I kept trying to call that number back, but I couldn't get anybody. And so about 10 minutes later, I started getting calls about what was going on. So his friend walked down there to the site. Like I said, his father also showed up to the site um, within 10 minutes of everything starting to take place, but they wouldn't let his father through. I
Mm.
talked to the officer on the phone that was there, and I don't understand why they wouldn't put me on the phone with Jordan. I don't understand why 911, when Jordan called 911, and you could tell that this young man was talking out of his mind.
Right.
Why didn't you try to reach someone?
Right.
Why didn't the officers even allow his dad to come through to talk him down?
Right.
That's what I
There's
was.
so many things that
There were
went.
so many methods to de-escalate the situation
Yep, so many
that could
things
have been
that
employed.
happened that day that could have been done differently. Um, you know, and I'll never know why.
Yeah.
I'll never know why until I leave this place. Um, my only thing that helps me sleep at night is I trust God and His work,
Yeah.
and I trust and believe that one day I'll see my baby again.
You will.
Until then, I'll just continue to do my work and my purpose that God has put in front of me.
Mhm.
So,
Definitely.
Aaron, I'm going to ask Aaron a question because Aaron is the only guy on here. And I heard you say earlier that you go to counseling.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like a not popular thing for a man to go to counseling because it's shunned on because of the masculinity that a man's supposed to have, that he should not be emotional and that, you know, he shouldn't have those type of feelings. So could you tell the men that's maybe watching, what do you think about counseling and why you decided to go to counseling?
Um, okay. So for me, counseling is it's a third party. It's someone that's not in your circle that you can talk to and you can really just um, empty out, you know, what you got going on. So I was diagnosed um, with high anxiety because of the medical condition that I was born with, and and it stemmed from the fear of death, and then when like I was saying earlier, when you start feeling certain things in your body, your anxiety takes over. I mean, to the point where my heart would race, and I couldn't sleep. I would toss and turn because it affected me that much. And then when I got counseling, and then they put me on some anxiety meds to help with it. Um, to piggyback off of what Nina and Anissa said is just that, you know, go and get the help that you need, to have a peace of mind and able to talk to somebody about um, the issues that are going on. And it necessarily doesn't have to be health. It could be finances. It could
Mhm.
be situations that you deal with on the job, you know. But it's nothing wrong with the man. It doesn't affect your masculinity and going and giving and talking to somebody to hear a different perspective. Sometimes it's not as bad as what you think it is. Your mind, like that song says, your mind can play tricks on
Yeah.
you, and you were thinking it's worse than what it really is.
Definitely.
But you still have to. For me, I still have to work through it. It's a process, and it's not easy. But
Mhm.
with the counseling, and it really helps. And I would tell the men out there dealing with any type of mental health issue, that, you know, we as Black folks think that talking to somebody, not all, but some think, you know, I don't need that help. I don't need to talk to nobody else. And I mean, you can get financial counseling, you can get marital counseling, you can get personal counseling. There's all type of counseling. You can go get religious counseling from your pastor or whatever, you know, denomination that you're talking to, and just as long as you're talking to somebody, and you know, talking to Pookie and them or your homeboy or homegirl, sometimes it's not really gonna help. You just gotta really need to get that professional. And I would say this: I work for the state of Texas, and so most major employees do offer EAP programs
Yeah, definitely.
that you can you know reach out and get, and it's you know it's free. And I think I did the EAP program, and I think it's the first. It depends on what your organization or how many counseling sessions they'll pay for. But I know that at least the first 7 to 10 counseling sessions
Yeah, definitely.
But
are.
it's a start. It's definitely a start. You
Yeah.
can start there, and you can definitely keep going.
And even after you do that EAP, sometimes
Yeah.
if you're going to a counselor, they'll work with you and like be like, you know, you say like, you know, I can't afford $100 an hour or whatever. They'll usually work with you because this is usually a person who has a business. So it doesn't hurt just to start somewhere. Those 8 visits or whatever could change your life.
Exactly.
And I just want to say that anybody out there that needs help, please inbox me, Michelle, Erica. Um, me and Erica work in the healthcare field. We can get you find something to get you some information to help you get that help that you're looking for. If you know, just or call your HR department and they can lead you in the right direction. And I know also your primary care physician. I've talked to my doctors and all the doctors that I have, and they've always they have people that they can refer you to get the help that you need. But please, just don't be scared to talk to, and you don't have to suffer in silence. You know.
If you're just having a bad day, you want to, whatever it is, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think another important thing also is to join support groups. There's different support groups out there, and I don't know for you, but for me, it was comforting talking to um, mothers that had lost their children. You know, I had good friends and close friends to talk to, and my mom, but I didn't even know how to explain how I was feeling. Like there were no words for me to explain. Like I didn't know, you know. But when I reached out to those mothers who had lost children, they knew. Like I didn't have to say anything. They already knew, you know, because there's no words to how you feel and what you're going through. You're faced with so many emotions that you think you're about to lose your mind. I mean, you really do. You think you're about to lose it because you're so overwhelmed. And those support groups have really, really helped me during this process as well. Just because they understand me, you know, and everybody wants to be understood.
Yeah.
So, you know, depending on what you're suffering from, you know, there's groups out there for anxiety, there's groups out there for those that suffer with bipolar, things like that. It helps. It helps to, you know, reach out to someone and just kind of get their feedback because they
Yeah,
know what you're going through.
talk to the people, yeah, that know what you're
Mhm.
exactly what you're going through.
And the thing with mental illness, let me tell y'all, even outside of EAP, if you look on the back of your insurance card, they have an 800 number on there for mental illness. So EAP is not the only,
Right.
that's just a start. If you
Yeah.
want to continue counseling, your insurance pays for mental health. It's just like a doctor's appointment.
Right.
It's a little more expensive, but your insurance does pay for mental health. Also, at your job, we have mental health days that we can take. Um, we also have, and if you are having a mental health crisis and you're feeling like you just can't, you can always take you a short-term disability. That's what we pay for these things for. These things are not to be paid out of your hard-earned check just to give it to an insurance company so that they can collect money. It is not okay to go to work every day feeling down and depressed. When they take that $5.15 out of your check and it says STD, short-term disability,
That's
that
what it's
means you
for.
have insurance. You can take that up to 12 weeks
That's what it's
and you
for.
can use that. So don't be afraid to take care of your health. You know, you may not get 100% of your pay, but you will get 70% of your pay, a lot of jobs. And that is better to do than to go to work every day and be struggling. And you can and you have these things set up in place. So if you have those things, guys, use them. Do not be afraid to tell your job that you're not feeling well and that you need to take a FMLA. That's what they have those things in place for. It is not only for going out having a baby. It is, and I know for a long time that's what a lot of us thought. FMLA, oh, you have that when you have a baby, or say if you have arthritis or you have some type of
Surgeries.
physical condition.
Mhm.
Short-term disability is for mental um, issues as well. So if you have that at your job and you have elected that during your benefits process, then you can use that. So do not be going to work stressed out. Use your benefits. That is what we pay for insurance for. Don't be scared to use this insurance to take care of yourself mentally, because you don't know what can happen to your mental. And you could have a nervous breakdown. You could break down and not even be functionable enough anymore to go to work. So if you are feeling a certain type of way, use those tools that we have in place, that we have elected during our benefits, these short-term disabilities, these long-term disabilities that we have at work. Use it and do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to get the help that you need to take care of yourself mentally. Because if you are not here mentally, there's no way you can be here physically. Your body is not going to move if your mind is not functioning correctly. And that is a known fact. Um, Another thing, uh, coping with mental illness, you can recognize the warning signs, like they say, like Anissa said, like I said, like Nina said earlier. If you are feeling not like yourself anymore, like I said, I just didn't feel like Michelle. I know who Michelle is. I'm with Michelle every day. I know me. And I knew that I was not feeling well. So recognize those signs. Start having conversations. These are conversations that we need to start having. It is nothing wrong with going with counseling. I remember growing up, if you went to a shrink, you were crazy. And that is not the case. You are crazy if you don't go get the help.
That's
There's
right.
nothing wrong with getting help. Um, Educate yourself about mental health conditions. It's always good to educate yourself on what you're feeling, why are you feeling this way, and who can help you. Seek support for yourself. We talked about that earlier. Getting support. Um, See what counselor works best for you. Like I told y'all earlier, I go to 2 different counselors. Um, I also talk to a psychotherapist that wants to put me on medication and is talking to me about my childhood and what happened to me in my childhood and how that has affected me as an adult and the decisions that I make. She has actually taken me all the way back to when I was in the first grade and the things that I remember back then and how they have affected me today in the way I parent and in the way in my marriage and things like that. So psychotherapists are good as well. It doesn't mean that I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
I'm just getting help to unveil all these layers that I have had on me over the years, and get a physician to review you, talk to somebody, get diagnosed if you need to. Just get well. It's nothing wrong with getting well. We know that in our culture, that's not something that's very popular, but it needs to become popular. It's nothing wrong with getting help. It has really helped me. I mean, we were in a situation, we went to Houston for my birthday, and we had a lady come over, a makeup artist, to do our makeup, and my wedding ring came up missing. And everybody knows that I will blow up because that is how I'm used to dealing with issues, because I did not know how to deal with myself in that mental capacity. All I knew how to do was blow up. And I handled that very well. And I learned that from counseling. I did not learn that on my own. I learned that everything was not a blow up moment to scratch people or go in on people. But in the counseling, I learned how to handle situations. So I think counseling is great. I think that these stories that we heard today here on this podcast are very touching. Um, since I've been going to counseling, I realized how it has helped me grow as a person. It has helped me just feel a lot better about myself. I don't feel like I have this big weight on my shoulders anymore of all these secrets and all these problems that I was carrying around because I didn't want to be judged, or I didn't want to go to counseling because it was not popular in my culture, in my community. So I tell you, the audience out here tonight, if you feel any kind of way, um, if you are feeling sad, if something has happened that has affected you in your family or even outside of us, we see things that go on every day, like I talked about earlier on social media, that is touching to us. We have children. We have children, these children age that we see have come up missing, have, been found, um, out in this world. Somebody has done something to them. And that touches home with us because then we're having to call our kids and say, hey, watch your surroundings, watch what you do. If you're feeling this type of way, call us and let us know. And these are things that we are learning, because we were not taught these things growing up. And that's okay. It's better to start somewhere than to never start at all, and getting help. So, Nina, I appreciate you coming on tonight.
I really appreciate y'all having me. This was actually cathartic, right? Like talking this out, this was almost a form of therapy in some regard, right? I kind
Yes,
of felt that anyway.
I agree.
yes, yes. So
So
thank you,
y'all. This
Nina.
was very heartwarming and touching. I'm happy to know all of y'all.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Anissa, like she said earlier, Anissa, we've been knowing each other seem like forever. I know 30 years at least. These kids are 30, about to be 31. My son. And so we've been knowing each other for a long time. I admire Anissa. My heart was broken when I heard about Jordan. I have a little cousin that worked with him at the HEB, and she was very heartbroken and she was very sad. And so I remember that day. And I remember talking to Anissa before that. So, Anissa, I will tell you, I admire your strength. I admire you pushing through the muddy waters. I couldn't imagine. I'm not going to say that I can even imagine what you're going through because I cannot. I'm a mother, so in that way, I understand. But I applaud you for getting up every day, for even getting out of the bed.
Amen.
Because
The
some
fact that
people,
you get up.
the fact that you're even getting up, I applaud that. And I'm here with you every step of the way. Aaron, I appreciate you sharing with the men that you do seek counseling as well. You guys, if anybody is having any mental health issues, they have a national mental health hotline. The number is 866-903-3783. If you guys are dealing with mental health issues and you live here in Austin, Texas, Anissa has Jordan Safe Place. The number there is 512-963-5857, or you can go to Jordan Safe Place at outlook.com and email. You can get on Jordan Safe Place on Facebook, and you can contact the organization if you want to donate to the organization to help Anissa with Jordan Safe Place. That will be appreciated as well. Um, you guys, I thank all the viewers for tuning in tonight. I thank all you guys for commenting. Tonight, I knew would be quiet. You know, normally we're rowdy on
Mhm.
Relocked, but I knew that tonight would be a teaching moment, I will say, for every one of us on this podcast and who is viewing tonight from YouTube and from Facebook Live. I encourage you guys to get help. Um, you know, in school, they say no question is a dumb question. So, not reaching out is not smart. You should reach out when you're not feeling well or you're not feeling like yourself. So,
I would
Eric,
just like to take this moment and
mhm.
say thank you, ladies, for being so brave and so strong to come on here and to share your story. You touched me, and I know you've touched some other people and other people on this podcast to continue to get out there and share your story with others. And mental health is very, very important, especially for our Black folks, and especially in the Black community. We need to reach out to each one, everyone, to let them know, you know, and to continue to share your story. And my prayers, my thoughts and prayers to go out to you and your family. And if there's anything that me, Erica, or Michelle can do to help from this point on, just please don't hesitate to reach out. We can also, I would talk to Michelle because it's her podcast, and maybe in the future, near future, we can do another show on mental health because it's that important.
Yeah.
Erica, so do you
Yeah.
have anything?
I just want to say the same thing. I appreciate you ladies coming on here and just being open and sharing your story with everyone. Um, and just keep going, keep pushing, um, and just blessings. Just keep pushing.
Well, I thank you guys for inviting me. I'm not gonna say I enjoyed it, but it did help me. Even though some tears, but sometimes I got to talk my way through that pain. And so every time I do, I think it gets, I'm not going to say it gets easier, but it helps me as well. You know, it's very therapeutic for me to talk about it and talk about mental health because that's something that, you know, as Aaron stated, we don't talk about it in our Black community. You know, it's something that we sort of frown down on for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe coming from history, growing up, things like that, they didn't talk about it and it just kind of came over into our generation. But it's real.
Hmm.
It's real, and there's so many mental illnesses out there outside of schizophrenia, bipolar. You know, there's
Yeah.
depression, there's overeating, there's undereating. There's so many things that can lead to your mental not being healthy.
That's
And we
right.
want everybody's mental healthy. We want to
Yeah,
be there to support.
to
That's right.
piggyback off that, what it looks like for me is not going to be what it looks like for you. It's not going to manifest itself in the way it comes from Michelle. Your brain, just like anybody can have gout or something else, there's a chemical in your brain that could possibly be off. So just talk to somebody just in case. There
Yeah.
could definitely be something biologically wrong. It's not you being sad. It's not you being, overreacting. What you react to and your brain reacts to is not going to be the same as somebody else's. Somebody else might tell you to get over it, but your
Yeah.
brain can't handle what you're going through right now. So please know that this exists.
Even the little anxiety, like as I'm getting older, I was just thinking about that. As I'm getting older, getting premenopausal, we go through anxiety. So even little things like that, it's always
Mhm.
good to talk to your doctor. So just
Definitely.
those little bitty things, it's helpful. So yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. Thank the audience for tuning in. We
Yeah, this was
appreciate you
fun.
guys.
I'm
Go
happy to meet you guys. So
yeah. So go tune in next Tuesday, Relock Podcast. You guys please share, share, share. We're on YouTube Live and we're on Facebook Live every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Thank you guys for joining Relock Podcast. We love you all and we see you next week.
Bye.